Why is it that going into 2024 with the quote-unquote presidential elections around the corner, that more than 3 years later, many Americans still believe that the 2020 elections were stolen? It seems like every other week there's a new survey coming out asking people, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, whether you have a certain leaning or whatever it is, however you want to slice the data up, that people are not letting go of what happened in 2020. A CNN poll coming out just recently saying that 69% of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents view President Joe Biden's win as illegitimate, which is up from 63% this year. A Rasmussen poll recently last year said that when asked, did cheating affect the outcome of the 2020 presidential campaign, Rasmussen claimed that 45% of Democrats said it was likely, along with 64% of independents and 80% of Republicans. And so it begs the question, what is going on? Do we still have people that are election deniers, that are sore losers, and they just can't let go of the past and accept quote unquote reality? Or is there something else going on? Because you have to really ask critical thinking questions about what's happening and why regular Americans, and these are not just, hillbilly, crazy, bunker dwelling, stupid people. We're not talking about these guys. We're talking about everyday Americans, highly educated in the corporate world. They have PhDs. A lot of these people, when they quote unquote do their research, they come to the same conclusion and they really believe that 2020 was off. Recently, even Tucker Carlson, it doesn't matter what your opinion is of him. If you look at what he's saying when asked what concerns you, what worries you, look at this video.
Are there stories you're scared to cover? Because there will be times, and I know you are hit with a torrent of information on a daily basis, way more than I am. And I mean, you have contacts all around the world that are, there's probably someone on the space station right now texting you with information about something. And so are there things that you're scared to cover? You're sitting there saying, wow, this is like soul crushing, like to the point where like it really scares you in your soul.
There are two. Yes, there are two. One is the 2020 election. And I think that I was far too dismissive of some of the claims made about it. And I think there may be some merit to some of the wildest possible claims about that election. And I haven't proven it yet, but I've, look, I'll just say, and you know this, of course, very well, both of you, that whenever you have politics, you've got a lot of sleazy people and liars and people who just want to get their candidate elected or get paid or whatever. You've got a lot of lying around all political campaigns, so it's very hard to know what's true. And sometimes it takes years to figure it out. So there were a lot of stupid mercenaries making claims about fraud in that past election that were, they couldn't back up. But that doesn't mean that all of those ideas were wrong. And I think that some of them were right, is what I'm learning. And I'll just leave it there.
He says that the number one thing is the 2020 elections. And so you have to really think and stop brushing people off. Stop looking at them as crazy. Stop saying and name calling these guys as alt-right, super conservative, whatever, stupid people. And really ask yourself these questions, because over the last 3 years, you've had many things come out, and the way it's portrayed in the media is different from the fact that actual things are happening, whether it's an investigation, whether it's a documentary, whatever it is. People, and I'll give you a list: no government issue voter ID, mail-in ballots handed to everyone without voter ID, ballot harvesting with no oversight, ballot drop boxes with no oversight. Think about the 2020 Meals documentary. 5 states, right, the battleground states that are infamously known, colluding to stop vote count on election night for the first time in history. Little or no signature matches on millions of mail-in ballots, counting fake ballots for days after the election, and these, the legit ones, apparently being watermarked. Voter rolls containing millions of inactive or improper registration, dead people or illegal aliens voting by the millions, affidavits or video evidence seen of various nefarious activity that calls into question what's really going on, like suitcases being pulled out from under tables. And President Trump and many other people still confidently saying things like the 2020 election was stolen.
When you actually look at all this stuff, there is documented proof that something different is going on.
And in my second term, which we're sort of having now, but I don't want the results, right?
There's a flurry of moves at the Department of Defense, which Rachel Maddow on TV, like,
kind of a weird reaction to losing the election, right? Immediately fire the defense secretary and install a new guy. What do they think the NSA and the CIA can do if they were suddenly commandeered by Trump lackeys?
We have some very good controls in place.
And they're going to get 3 more years. They rig an election, they're going to get another 3 more years.
Trump was making tons of moves in irregular warfare, specifically having to do with irregular warfare. And then just like a couple months ago, he comes out and openly admits that the last 7 years, our intel agencies have been conducting
illegal psychological warfare campaigns against the American people. I'm a wartime president. This is a war. This is a war, different kind of a war than we've ever had.
Chris Miller, like, cut the red tape for Ezra Cohen-Watnick, the head of special operations, to report directly to Christopher Miller, the Secretary of Defense.
They think it's a trick that I'm playing on them. They think I'm playing a trick.
On December 7th, when Donald Trump issued the executive order which implemented and executed a continuity of government plan.
They cheated, and it's a shame that they're allowed to get away. And let's see whether or not they do get away, because I don't think they will get away with it.
Chris Miller, who's been the Secretary of Defense for like a month and 5 days or something, says we've been through some of the most
complex military operations this country's ever conducted.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, you know, when you rob the store of its diamonds, I always say Tiffany, and you rob Tiffany of its diamonds and you get caught, you're supposed to return them. We caught them cheating. You're going to let somebody that cheated stay for 3 more years? I can't imagine it.
If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Donald Trump issued 10 national security presidential memorandums in his last 10 days in office. Those specifically deal with national security matters. He issued one every 53.7 days leading up to that point, and he issued 10 in his last 10 days, and some of them are still classified. We have no idea what they are.
What should happen is what the plan that we're on now, and I think a plan that's going to make people very, very happy.
2 days before Trump left office, the continuity of government protocol, like the warning system, was sent out to thousands of government employees. And everybody's like, what the hell is going on?
I don't want the results of this second term. This second term is a disaster for this country.
I want you to answer that. If you were the candidate and I was Tucker and I said to you, 81 million.
Well,
what happened?
You know how I'm going to answer it. I'm going to say, of course it didn't happen. Joe Biden didn't get anything close to that. President Trump won more votes than any sitting president in history. And they rigged this election to put Joe Biden in the White House. Period. You don't lose 17 out of 18 bellwethers and win the most votes in the history of our country. You just don't do it.
Correct.
You don't only win 16% of counties and win the most votes of anybody.
Correct.
And that's why I'm fighting, and that's why our election, our victory was stolen from us. And sadly, I think that many of the people who are showing up and are going to be talking to Tucker don't want to talk about election corruption. But I will tell you, I've spoken to many people when I was standing out here who are attendees here, and they're telling me, thank you for fighting. We've got to sort these elections out.
The Kerry Lakes of the world, and many people trying to fight this tooth and nail, are they sore losers? Are they just stupid people? Like they just can't let go of what happened? Or is there something else going on that you really have to start asking questions and digging to get deeper answers? Now, I'm not here to say that everything is out there. Many people saying that whatever evidence or hard evidence there is, whether it's from the military, whether it's other things, it's not out yet. I want to discuss in this video briefly the gravity of this situation, because when you talk about a stolen election, because we're so desensitized and we don't understand pure evil, high treason, and things that require the death penalty, we look at that as not a big deal. It's not a big problem. Oh, just haha. If the 2020 elections had some fraud and some, even if it's in the millions, no big deal, no big deal. And this is how a lot of us, Americans especially, look at how this situation is unfolding. And you have to shake yourself awake to the gravity of how serious this is. Imagine for a moment, again, I'm not making accusations, right? Imagine for a moment that everything Trump is saying, everything that these guys are saying about it being stolen, you got Dominion voting machines, hacking, you got everything's connected to the internet, vote changes within the algorithm and whatever it is, all of the mail-in ballots, you have signature mismatches, everything that you can imagine, the drop boxes, these guys, everything that's true. Let's say everything is true and there's much more behind it, and you have foreign adversaries, foreign and domestic. You got all these guys that are in on this, right? It's a massive criminal syndicate. Imagine if that's true, then you have to realize that what they did and what has occurred is a treason that is of the highest order. And if you want to take down this criminal syndicate, the deep state, the cabal, whoever's behind it, and again, just entertain the fact that it was stolen, then if that is the case, then you have to, from a strategic perspective, realize that there's much more depth behind all of this than there is just going in there and rounding them all up. Now, if you saw the last couple of videos I've done, I've talked about the fact that you have to really get the people on your side. You have to awaken people slowly so that they understand it, so that there's not a riot, there's not a backlash, and people are not blindly supporting the enemy. And so this is why there's a huge strategic plan. This whole sort of, if you want to put Q in there, if you want to put the military in there, if you want to put devolution in there, whatever it is, right? If something really happened on November 3rd and, that thing kicked off what people say is a continuity of government, then you have to realize that everything that's done, there's a pro, there's a con, there's a downstream impact, there's a repercussion behind it. And you can't just go in there and do whatever you want, right? A lot of people are asking, why don't you just go in there and just show the evidence? Why don't you just round them all up? And then we'll believe it. You don't realize that there's a deeper level of this criminal syndicate that you have to catch. And so this is what I want to go through briefly today. And so if you look at this slide that I have, ask yourself this question. If the 2020 election was for real, or as in it was stolen, then why don't you just release why didn't Trump just release everything on November 4th? Why don't you just release it even 2, 3, 4 months later? Well, it's because there are major problems with releasing everything all at once. There's a massive sting operation that's happening right now that the normal person cannot fathom the depth, the width of what is happening. If you release something, just enough information. If you release just enough, then what you're going to have, as opposed to releasing all the evidence at once, what you will have is that, and I've talked about this, there's 3 different distinct audiences that Trump and all these people, they're targeting. The people that really want to know and really want to dig deeper, right? These are the people at the bleeding edge of information and news. They are the champions of news dissemination, the truth seekers, the truth tellers. Audience number 3, they can really research for themselves. And these are the first movers, right? These are the people that are early adopters that will go in there and say, okay, I've done the due diligence. I can slowly get my friends and family on board. I can champion, a podcast, a YouTube channel, and tell people about this. And they can get other people to research and come on board. And you have so many TikToks, so many Instagrams now, so many young people, or even if you want to say old, these people are all going out within their own platforms, their own websites, radio shows, and telling people about what's going on so that people can digest it very slowly. The second thing or benefit is that you have to allow the secrecy of the sealed indictments. If you have a certain sequence of events happening and you ruin what is basically in the legal or the court system, certain sealed indictments to just be released, then there's no way you can just release everything. It's going to ruin what would be the indictments and the continuation of all these prosecutions or whatever it is that's going on in the lower or middle courts or even the military tribunals. You are going to ruin what is the secrecy of this. And this has already happened with the Durham investigations, with the Arizona stuff, Jack Smith now. Many things are happening. And if you pay attention to the court hearings and actually go into the details, you will see that certain things are blocked because other sealed indictments are preventing people from leaking this information. The third thing is the continuity of covert operations. You cannot allow all of the other people to be caught unless you allow the continuity of what sounds like it's normacy, what sounds like it's okay, right? So whatever is going on behind the scenes with regards to catching everybody, you're going to disrupt that continuity if you do not allow certain things to be released at the right time. You can't just give everything up and say, hey, we got them, that's it, we're good to go. Because again, like in the second point here, if you release all the evidence all at once in December of 2020, right? Right after the November 3rd elections. If you do that, you're going to inundate your audience, meaning all the people in the world, quite frankly. It's an information overload if you allow them just to see everything at once. And you expect them to just believe it. Hey, here's everything. Here's all the paperwork, millions of documents. And all the people from top to bottom. We got them, right? So can you believe us? Yes. Then let's do it. People are going to have a riot, right? And this is point number 3. There's going to be chaos, riots, misjudgments. People are just not going to believe Trump because there's just so much that comes out. And point number 2 is that it compromises the sting operation. So you cannot do it in such a way where you just lay it all out and say, here we go, let's just fix it now. I'm going to put myself back up as president. Rather, as part of the grand scheme of showing people, and again, people have said before, you can't just tell them, you have to show them. People are going to wake up slowly to each their own, and you're going to realize what has been happening to America and to the world because of all of the Biden stuff, all of this woke liberal stuff, right? And so this is why there's not a way for you to just put it all out at once. These are just a couple of examples. And let me bring to your attention one other thing, because there is this idea where people are trying to figure it out and they're reading certain articles, right? Where they frame this whole narrative, right? As being some crazy, baseless conspiracy, right? And I'm looking at one article here. A former President Donald Trump has long claimed, without any proof, that the 2020 election was rigged and stolen. And even below, they're bringing out these quote unquote facts, right? Oh, even Trump's own attorney general, lifelong Republican Bill Barr, has repeatedly said that the Department of Justice found no evidence of widespread voter fraud that would change the outcome of the election. And Barr isn't alone. Trump's campaign lawyer, son-in-law, and his daughter have also indicated that they knew Trump lost the 2020 election. And you have all these things, right? Brad Raffensperger from Georgia. You have all these people saying, well, they tried it in court and it didn't work and blah, 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 right? So you have all of this sort of ambiguity, I want to call it, where people are looking at the quote unquote evidence that's out there and sort of this lack of progress, so to speak, in this area and saying, well, because there's been no fruit in the last 3 years, then that means that's what it is. He lost and it's true, right? But you have to realize, again, we're not living in a, not 18th century sort of war campaign. If there really is a black hat, a cabal, these bad guys, and I'm going to talk about the pyramid here in a second. If whoever it is, this criminal syndicate, they want to take over the American political system, then you have to realize that in the time we live in, with internet and with psychological warfare, that it's not just kinetic. It's not like the 18th century where you have guns and you have people where you have a newspaper and you just have everybody believe everything, but rather you have the divided nation that we have because they're researching and I've said this before, but their perception of reality is made in such a way based on what they're reading as truth, as information, and the way they're collectively getting the information to make their conclusions. And so that's why there's an idea that I have here called the white hat ambiguity campaign. You have guys like Bill Barr, you have guys that are white hats, supposedly, that are in there and they're confusing the narrative intentionally. Why is that? People call it the fifth dimensional warfare. People call it a psyop. People call it a necessary quote unquote evil in that you want to catch people off guard. Number 1, intentional disinformation, a psyop. Number 2, enemy misdirection, so that they're fumbling the ball, so that they go down a path that you want them to go down, so that they would trap themselves. Again, think sting operation. How else do you want to confuse your enemy? By misdirecting them. And you keep the truth seekers or the justice seekers at bay. Because if you release everything all at once, you tell them this is the facts and the truth, then you're going to have people that actually want justice. They want it done immediately. Think about your son, your daughter. I want you to graduate right now. I want you to get married right now. Everything needs to happen right now. And God, He's very patient with everybody. And same in this situation where there are layers that are behind all of this for which you have to intentionally have people like Bill Barr or whoever it is come out and say, oh, there's nothing going on here, nothing to see. And they intentionally misdirect you. Let me show you a couple instances in the Bible, right, where intentional misdirection or deception was allowed, even by God, and used by God for the success of the Israelites. If you know, and again, this is a Christian channel, so I talk in relation to Christian discourse and the Bible and just many things. Think about Joshua 2, Rahab and the spies. Genesis 27, Jacob steals Esau's blessing. Genesis 38, Tamar and Judah, right? Tamar disguising herself as a prostitute to seduce Judah, and as a part of her plan to secure the rights and the offspring within Judah's family line, as Judah had failed to fulfill his duties towards her according to the marriage customs of the time. Exodus 1, the Hebrew midwives. Pharaoh ordering killing all of the Hebrew male infants, and yet the Hebrew midwives deceived them by claiming that the Hebrew woman gave birth before the midwives came. 1 Samuel 21, David pretends madness. David feigning insanity before Achish, the king of Gath, to escape from him. Judges chapter 4, Jael and Sisera. Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, uses deception to lure Sisera, the commander of the Canaanite army, into her tent. She then kills him, contributing to Israel's victory. And so you ask yourself this question, and let me lay it in a more simple way. If you were the DEA, right, and you're trying to catch the drug cartel, and there's a lot of movies about this, what would you do? Would you go in there, guns blazing, and try to just capture them all? Or do you have people, undercover agents, insiders, go in there, insert themselves, and even sort of commit these crimes in deception for the overall good of how you want to allow all of the people to be caught top to bottom? These guys that are going in there, and again, the same drug example, the cartel example, these people are doing almost a necessary evil, just like in the Bible. And again, this is a very ethical, a very hard ethical question and discussion to be had. But if you were in a government organization, or you're the white hats at the top level, how do you allow a plan like this to continue going forward? Because there are pros and cons to doing certain things, releasing all the evidence at once, catching them and rounding them all up at once, and just telling the American people what to believe. There are many pros and cons to high-level decisions that are more difficult than you can ever imagine. And so the same with the drug cartel, the DEA, and the FBI, whoever it is. They're sending in people, and they have to insert themselves into society within the drug cartel. They have to gather information. They have to have proof. There's so many things that you cannot just say, it's black and white. Bill Barr, right, saying, this is there's nothing here to see. Or whoever said this is the safest election in the history of mankind. There's an intentional white hat ambiguity campaign going on for the reasons that I stated below. And there's much more, right? There's much more. And so you have to realize that this is why there's complexity behind why you think, well, if this happened, then this should happen. If the election was stolen, then we should have justice and we should have everybody rounded up. It doesn't work like that. And let me show you the pyramid that the white hats, if you want to call them, the military, whoever it is looking at, because you want to catch everybody. Again, like I said before, this act, and again, entertain the thought for me, if it was stolen, the 2020 election, it is a high level of treason. It is something that is equivalent, and again, actually, I don't even want to say that, comparing crimes, but it's so bad that as a countryman, a citizen of this country, of the US, you are deserving of the death penalty. And this is according to the law. This is according to traditional constitutional law. If you are a deserter, if you are a treasonous person of this country, especially as an elected official, part of the military, then you, according to some of these laws, deserve death because you are committing high treason. And so if this really happened, the 2020 election being stolen, it's a grave issue. It's a grave mistake by those that have committed this. And how else do you want to commit or catch everybody? To understand who's involved. And so this pyramid, right, just going through it very briefly, you have the highest ranking leaders. You have high-level strategists below them. Then you have mid-level enforcers and operatives. And I'm going to go through each one of these briefly. And then you have ground-level operatives. You're not going to just round up the highest-level guys. You're not going to just round up the shadow elite, the cabal masters, the invisible hand. And again, there's many more that you can, many ways to slice and dice this. But if you just catch these guys and you leave everybody else out, that you're not doing justice for the level of treason that's happened in this country. And so you have to look at the details. The next level, high-level strategists, who belongs in this category? There's much more than what I listed here. But corporate leaders or corporate, even mid-level people, all of these, and whether it's a company or whether it's some organization, whatever it is, elected officials, there are high-level strategists and operational people, execution people that are here that lie within the judicial, the legal system, in the courts, the judges, the intelligence community, right? You have syndicate architects, and you might laugh at that or chuckle at that, but there are people, and you could even say Jeffrey Epstein, right? This has come out recently. The list, right? These people that have whatever it is, and again, I don't want to say those words like the P word, the C word, all these things that are happening with as related to Jeffrey Epstein and any of these crimes against humanity. There are people that are architects of all of this going on, and they deserve whatever the punishment is that is needed because it's so wicked what they're doing. Spies, foreign agents, the deep state, the double agents, whatever it is, right? There's a lot of people at this level that they've caught, they know of, but they need to gather the evidence. They have to slowly release, and it's happening now, right? It's happening as we speak. All this exposure in order to have it digestible to the public so that when they are tried, people say, okay, that's good. We need to try them. And there's justice and there's righteous anger for this type of prosecution. And so the mid-level enforcers and operatives, who are they, right? State and local leaders, elected officials even, influencers and handlers. Handlers, people that control these other people, media, reporters, celebrities. There are many people that influence the ways of the world. They move people in a certain direction, and they're being used by Satan himself and these high-level guys as a top-down order to influence and to distract the people. You have activists, you have cyber, hackers, cyber operatives, financial operatives, and I've talked about this, but the collapse of this fiat currency, the Federal Reserve System, this whole thing by the rich, these people that have been doing financial and economic harm for such a long time, logistics coordinators, people that are moving things, right? So many things at this level, they have to catch all of them. Then you have the ground level operatives. Who are they? Everybody else doing the crime, whether it's small foot soldiers like the ballot counters, the mules, these guys that did the election stealing, whatever it is that they did, grassroots order takers, you have Antifa, rioters, now illegal immigrants. Trump has warned us now that 2024, you have all of the influx of immigrants. They're going to start voting, right? They're going to count them in. There's no voter ID. They're just going to say, oh, here you go, come vote, right? So you have these grassroots order takers. They may not even know that the degree to which they are committing such a crime, but they're being paid, they're being pushed, they're being blackmailed, whatever it is, and they're doing it. And some might legitimately be doing it because they're blackmailed, or others, they're being paid and they consciously accept the idea of committing this crime. There's shills, there are trolls, there's dissenters, misinformationists, a lot of it called FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. People that are just throwing things into the internet, into the discourse face-to-face or whatever it is. These guys are everywhere. And so these ground level operatives moving all the way up to the highest ranking leaders, if you want to catch all of them, you have to catch them all in the act. And it's a more deeper, more heavy operation than you can ever imagine. So whoever is orchestrating all of this, they're doing it in such a way where the least of their concerns is somebody writing an article and Bill Barr and all these guys saying, oh, there's nothing wrong here, nothing to see, or this, again, as I've said before, the white hat ambiguity campaign, or just making sure that we satisfy all of the people that's out there that have an itch for the truth. Why don't we have justice right now? Why don't you just say it right now? Again, there are layers there's different audiences, and there are different ways that Trump and the team and the White Hats, they're handling this in their way for a reason, because the smartest guys got in a room and they said, what would be the impact to society? What would be the impact to all of these people within this pyramid? What is it that we can get away with? What we can't? What is a necessary evil? How can we use deception to, in a way, again, it sounds evil, but to distract and to deceive the American public in a good way, such that it does more good in the end so that we can catch all of these guys. And so there's a lot of planning, a lot of thinking going on, for which, and me included, you and me, anybody, any American, anybody in the world, we have the internet and we're trying to research. We have probably less than 10% of what we can fully imagine. And Q has helped us a lot, but we do not have all of the information, classified information, and what actually happened, the military tracking, whatever it is. And we're sitting here, we think we're conjuring up some things. Some things are conjecture, some things are true, some things are good theories and hypotheses, but we don't know the truth, the full truth, the way that the military and the White Hats, the high-level smartest guys, the strategists, 4-star generals, whoever it is, Trump, all these guys that have been brought in, and including the Q operation, we don't know the degree to which they know. And so in some sense, if we trust God, if we trust a plan, if we trust whoever's doing this, let it play out and stop acting prematurely and saying, we want this, we want that. It should have been done this way. Back in December of 2020, we should have rounded them all up and done all of it so that Trump could be our leader right now. Whatever is happening, and again, I've said that there's a state of devolution, and people have studied this. You got guys like Patel Patriot, Derek Johnson, many guys that are doing this type of research, and even other public officials, Jan Halper Hayes being one, talking about the bankrupt U.S. corporation, among many other things. They're telling you what is happening, and you, with these clues and these drops, if you want to call them, you have to go out and start researching and seeing this for yourself, because there's much more than meets the eye. And to those that have ears, let them hear, and go and do your research and pray and ask God, as you're trusting him, for his helping hand, not only for the US and the world, but in your life as you navigate information. Now is not a time to get passive, to close off. If you have the capacity to learn, to research, and start asking critical thinking questions, then you can also be open to the fact that, okay, maybe God will show me what's true, what's not true. Let me give you this last example. If you were, and I talk about this all the time, if you were in the time of Jesus, if you were one of the citizens, ordinary citizens walking around, you're trying to figure out, oh, this new guy, Jesus, he's coming out, healing people, he's preaching a different word, and you're trying to figure out, is he the Messiah or not? A lot of people saying he's the Messiah. Well, if you were actually inquisitive, curious about finding out the truth, then you wouldn't succumb to the logical fallacies and all of this, moving with the crowd, right? Asking the Pharisees. I respect the Pharisees, so I want to know their opinion. And the Sadducees, I want to know your opinion too. What do you think? And they all say the same thing, right? Just like the Bible says. No, he's a false Messiah. In fact, we're trying to catch him in his words so that we can prosecute him by the Romans. And if you listen to those things, and if you listen to all your friends, yeah, I was there. He's a fraud, bro. Like, don't even worry about this guy. He's not the Messiah. And you're just taking other people's opinions, forming your opinion based on what other people are saying, what the majority is saying, what CNN is saying, what the news is saying, and you're saying, oh, this is the conclusion. There is no election interference. There's no election fraud. Instead of actually having a desire to find out the truth, then you're going to miss it. And many people did miss it. Many people, they saw Jesus literally with their own eyes in that time, and yet they chose to go with the crowd, throw stones and say, that's not the Messiah, and they laughed it off, haha, and they just closed themselves off. If you want to find out the truth, you have to literally sit there and say, you know what, as much as I dislike Trump, as much as I don't want to be called a right-wing conspiracy theorist, I want to find out what's going on. I want to do some due diligence, some research, and pray and say, Lord, what's really going on? Because if you have a desire to try to figure things out and you genuinely humble yourself before the Lord, I believe God can open your heart, your eyes to see what the truth is. This is not an arrogant statement. This is not somebody saying, oh, I'm a prophet. Oh, I'm a better researcher, a better person than you are. I'm a better discerner. It's none of that. It's the simple fact that, similar to Jesus's time, you look at something and you say, okay, maybe there's more than meets the eye. Maybe I need to shuffle through and kind of sift out all these people that I see as respectable, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and my best friends, they all see Jesus as one thing. All these people, they see Trump as some crazy person. But I want to know what's really going on. I want to find out the truth for myself. If you have that attitude, you can find out as well. And so I hope this video helped in some sense, but to give respect, credibility, credulence to these people, the 69%, the 33%, and some polls said that nearly a third of people, again, you can research this yourself, really truly believe that Biden is illegitimate and Trump is the president, or he deserves to be president and something else is going on. That whether he's devolved the government and we're in an active sort of continuity of government, devolution, transitioning ourselves from the bankrupt US corporation to this new republic or whatever is happening, right? And again, Trump has said many times, he's a wartime president. Why does he say that? He says that we have an invisible enemy. Why would he say these things? It's so cryptic. There's so much code. It's because if you really listen to him, and he's been right about everything so far, he's giving clues, again, to the audience number 3, to those that have ears, let him hear, because he's giving us clues. Many people are giving us clues as to what's going on. There's an invisible enemy, which is not COVID. It's not, yeah, there was COVID, but they're talking about the shadow elite, the cabal masters, the invisible hand. Wartime president, we've been attacked by a biological weapon in America. And what has to happen? The election systems were taken over. What has to happen? Trump, with PEDS, with his executive powers, he did something about it. He didn't sit there and just allow whatever it is to just, leave it up to chance, right? Hopefully the Supreme Court takes care of it, or maybe the military leaders will take care of it. No, he did something. The military did something because they have an obligation to stand and die for the Constitution, right? So this is what's going on, but we don't see it. We're not told about it because we live in the information age. We live in a fifth dimensional warfare with psyops, misdirection, intentional misinformation for the sake of winning a bigger war. So this is what's going on. Research yourself. Ask you for help, guys. Right now, I am trying to raise a lot of money to get my business going. I'm doing this full time, this as well as my business and many other ventures. I need your guys' support, guys. I need to raise $77,000. So I'm re-recording the end of this video because right before I was about to post this, GoFundMe shut my page down for a little bit and then only for it to be back up just before I'm posting this new video. And I'm saying this because they have been giving me a very hard time scrutinizing all these donations. And I have been warned. I know a lot of you guys refuse to go through this platform. You've opted to send me checks and also asking me to set up a Give, Send, Go, which is a Christian-run donation platform. So I've done that. I've done both. And you can continue to donate to GoFundMe. The reason I have that is because I'm hoping that with the momentum I have from you guys and this audience, I can get this out to a broader range or a audience of funders and investors that's outside of people who view me. I'm also opting to possibly go with Kickstarter or Indiegogo. We'll see in the future. But for now, I'm just trying to target the help that you guys have. I know many of you cannot donate, and that's fine. But to those that have the means and the ability, I would love the support. I have these gift boxes. We have thousands of these in the warehouse. We're setting up the website. We're doing so many different things. And I just need the funding and the help. I have these journals, right, that have already been ready to go. They are being sold along with t-shirts and many other things. But the brunt of it is going to be these gift boxes. And so you can put a nice gift in here, select things on the website. This is the direction I want to go among many other kingdom businesses that I believe the Lord is leading me to set up. And I'm hoping that with your support, I can get it kickstarted and then it would be for profit. We can use that money to do many more things. But I'm at the very beginning stages. I'm going to be doing this full time. I'm doing content creation full time. I'm doing this full time and many other things. More to come, guys. I need your support. I'm on my own now. I have a couple people working for me. But apart from that, I just need the support as much as possible. If you're blessed by this content, I would love the financial support. The links are below. Give, Send, Go is the primary one. If you want to continue with GoFundMe, that is great too. So love you guys. Talk to you guys very soon.